Welcome back to the IBJJF Podcast. My guest today is Johnatha Alves. Johnatha is a 3-time Pan champion, and he's got a super fight coming up at the IBJJF Flow Grappling Grand Prix on Friday, August 12th. Johnatha, thanks for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. So I'm excited to be doing this podcast with you. So let's get started.
Let's get into it. I wanted to start talking about your relationship with Guy Mendez and AOJ. That's a school that you've been representing for a long time. So how did you first come into contact with Guy and with AOJ?
Yeah, so nowadays we have a great relationship. So since I joined AOJ, but the first contact I had with him was, I think it was around like 2016. Was the first year he came, but I wasn't the person that contacted him, so I was training in Brazil, but the academy that I was training there was like, they're focusing more on MMA, so they're not focusing on the competition and Jiu-Jitsu team. So then my professor just had the idea for me like to come. It was that time that they're starting to have like the Believe and Achieve program, and then they're like bringing people from Brazil, and then they had like few athletes selected, but I wasn't the one selected, and my professor just contacted them after they closed that project, and then that's when I had the first contact, and I was about to go to Europeans already. It was right in the beginning of the year, I think it was like January, and then my professor contacted him, was like talking to him and everything, and then I went to Europeans, and then he was taking all the students to Europeans as well. And then my professor just told me, like, just go there and talk to them, introduce yourself, and just tell them that you're going to be going to AOJ and be trained there for a while. And then that's when I had the first contact with Guy and Rafa. So I started talking to them, and then after like a week, so I went back to Brazil, so I could get like everything like packed up, and then I had to come to AOJ. And then I went back to Brazil. I competed once more, and exactly after 2 weeks, that's when I actually came to AOJ. I joined the team, and then I started my work here. But at that time, I was just thinking like 6 months here at AOJ, and then I would have to go back because of the visa. 6 months in Brazil, and I would just go back and forth. But yeah, since like the first time I came, I already wanted to stay and then just like build my career here, like under Professor Guy.
I believe you were a blue belt at the time. Do you remember some of those early training sessions when you first got to AOJ?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I was like a blue belt, juvenile too. I wasn't even adult. And then I was like 16, 17 years old. And I remember like the first day I came, I got AOJ. Once I stepped like at the academy, then they were just starting the competition class. I remember that. And they're like, do you want to train or do you want to rest? I was like, it's my first day. I gotta show work. I was like, I'm gonna train. I just changed the step on the mat, and then that was like intense. Like the training was like very intense. Like, but like training hard. Like I was already training hard in Brazil. Like what made a big difference in training, I believe, was like the technical training, the way how they study Jiu-Jitsu. So I was already training hard, training with everyone, sparring hard. So, you have to train hard to become a champion. But this part of studying Jiu-Jitsu and then learning, developing new techniques, I think that was what made the difference in training. And then that was like the first impact that I had like once I started training here right in the beginning.
One thing that's been really cool about your career is the evolution of your jiu-jitsu game in competition. You, I think, started out, a lot of people knew you for your berimbolo. You would take people's backs a lot and get submissions from there. And you still, of course, have a great berimbolo. But now I think people really connect your name with really tight passing and pressure passing and playing on top really well. Can you talk about the evolution of your game and how Professor Guy and Rafa helped you with that?
Yeah, so before I joined AOJ, so I would already do like berimbolos. I would play top, I would play bottom. But it wasn't like something that was very sharp. So I would fight really hard. I would have like few techniques that would work in competitions. I was doing a very good job like with those few techniques. But once I came to AOJ, as I mentioned before, the the real like game changer for me was the technical training. I just spent like the whole time like for like 1-2 years just to work my bottom game. It's not that I stopped like working the top game, but I was like just focusing on developing and making better and better my bottom game. Um, and just focus on that, and then after a while, like, and Professor Gee, like, it's good to have Professor Gee because he always like trying to put you in a out of your comfort zone. So I was very comfortable, like playing bottom, doing a good job, taking like I went to Rhodes brown belt, like I was taking almost everyone's back, and then Professor Gee just told me like now it's time for us to start working on top. So then we started to work on top. So as we always have, like every season we have different goals. We know what we need to work on. Now it's top, now it's bottom, now it's more connections, now we need to be more explosive, now we need to be tighter. So we always have a goal every season. And then after like I got my black belt, Professor Gear, he just told me like now it's time for us to develop our top game. So that's when you start the work. So that's when you start like sharpening the techniques. So he always trying to put us in an uncomfortable position, and then always taking us out of our comfort zone, because that's how it is. Like I didn't have to be playing on top to be like one of the best, but for sure it's like you need to have like a complete game. You need to be good at all the areas in your jiu-jitsu. So that's why you need to be always out of your comfort zone. So it's not even like for competition, because there are a lot of people they don't play top, but they're winning competitions. There are a lot of people they don't play bottom, they're winning competition, but it's more for our jiu-jitsu. So if you want to be the best, if you want to be able like to teach one day, if you want to be able to understand jiu-jitsu in general, so you have to be out of your comfort zone. You have to try to learn it all.
Yeah, I love that. It seems like all the AOJ competitors have really well-rounded games. They can play top, bottom. They have great submissions. So it's very, very cool to watch you guys compete. And I wanted to take a step back and talk about the 2019 Worlds that you touched on briefly. I believe you submitted all your fights, and then you got your black belt on the mat after submitting in the final. Can you talk about that moment when you got your black belt and how special that was to you?
Oh yeah, that was like an incredible moment in my career for sure. Like unforgettable. And actually, I had like 6 matches. I didn't submit the finals, but I was just like was one match after the other, like taking everyone's back. That was the goal, like for that season. I was like, oh, let's sharpen your berimbolo, let's sharpen this technique, and then just be as the best as you can, like just doing that technique. And then that's what I did like for the whole season. And yeah, I had like 5 fights. Yeah, all the 5 matches I submitted like going to the back and choke. And then the finals I almost got to the back, and then I just ended up winning by points. And then that was the moment I got my black belt. I wasn't even expecting like to get my black belt. I was just so focused on accomplishing the mission that I wasn't even like expecting like to get the black belt. What would the feeling would be like after that? I would just want to accomplish the goal and then just move on to the next step. And then gladly I was promoted as a black belt. It was just a unforgettable moment, especially getting the black belt from Guy. So you have been like working together for years. So a lot of things, like so many things worked out for us. A lot of things didn't work out. So just making mistakes, improving, making better. So I always like these ups and downs. So that way you can collect a lot of experience. That was an incredible experience, but for sure like it was just even better because like receiving from Guy.
And you really hit the ground running once you got your black belt and kept the momentum from brown belt. You competed a lot, and you won your first major tournament, I believe was the 2020 Pans. Had a really great final against Michael Liera Jr. What was it like winning your first major title at black belt, and how did that kind of differ from some of the major titles you won in the lower ranks?
Well, I was already like expecting like how the level would be. Like since we started training as a blue belt here at AOJ, he already tell us, like even like the younger kids nowadays, he's always warning us that we shouldn't be trained for that level, but you need to be trained for the black belt level, for the highest level, because sometimes there are kids that are smashing their division, there's just like winning as a juvenile, but you cannot be satisfied winning as a juvenile. You cannot be satisfied winning as a blue, purple, brown belt, because that's not the highest level. That's just preparing you for the next level, which is the black belt level. But once I got to the black belt level, I was already expecting like to be competing against all those guys. I was already feeling comfortable to be competing at that level, because I was already like getting myself ready all these years to be there at that moment and just perform the way I was performing. And then that wasn't a surprise. That was just something I was already expecting. But it was good, like getting to the black belt, winning one of the major tournaments, especially that at that time, like we didn't have rolls, we just had pants. So winning the lightweight division as well, so it's always tough. A lot of like tough opponents, and it's good. It's good, like just collecting experience again. Like never satisfied. It's just one more day of experience that we collected for the next to move on to the next step.
Was it a similar feeling this year when you won your third Pan title?
Same feeling, same feeling. We know it's just one more day of experience and building our career, because that's just the short-term goal. So we're just building our name, be our career, and then eventually winning worlds as a black belt. It doesn't really matter. It's more about raising our level than like the medal itself. We are more concerned about our level. If you have a higher level, how you're winning the match, how dominant you're being, than versus the medal itself. But yeah, so the next day is just go back to work and move on to the next step. So you celebrate, you're happy at that day, but the next day is just a normal day of work.
Your level definitely improves every single time you compete, and now you're going to be competing against Levi Jone-Leary in a super fight at the IBJJF Flow Grappling Grand Prix event. Any thoughts on Levi as an opponent?
Yeah, he's a tough opponent. He's not like somebody that's a random person that's just stepping on the mat to compete. But yeah, for sure, like the work I've been doing is solid work. Since like I don't know, I have been doing this for years, so it doesn't really matter who you're facing. It's just the work and the goal is gonna be the same. So you competed before the lower belts. Now you're gonna have the chance to compete again. So I can't wait to be competing. It's not because I'm gonna face him or I'm gonna face somebody else. Just I'm always happy to be competing, to be healthy, to be training. So that's what matters the most to me, is be able to actually always be improving match after match. It doesn't really matter who I'm competing with, but what matters the most, how I'm raising my level, how solid is the work I'm doing. So I can't wait to be competing next week. So I wasn't supposed to be competing against him. Murasaki just I don't know what happened, like, but Murasaki's not competing anymore. So gladly I have now I have the chance to be facing him, and then the time I'm gonna be competing, I just wanna perform and put in the show.
Normally you're competing in a tournament where you're going to face a lot of different opponents and there's a lot of different possibilities. Are you making any adjustments knowing that you're only going to be facing Levi on the 12th?
No adjustments. So the goal, as I mentioned before, it's always the same. So it's go there and then just have a control over our opponent. Just be able to perform the best jiu-jitsu we can ever do. But we train like the same way always. We train like to close all the gaps in our game. So it doesn't really matter who you're facing at the tournament, because end of the day it's more about ourselves, and then you just need to do the same thing you're doing in class. So if I'm not performing, if I'm not doing a good job in class, you already know like what to expect once you go to the tournament. But whatever you do here is just to close all the gaps. So once you go to the competition, we are ready to compete against anybody. Now I'm just doing the same work I have been doing the whole time to face Levi. Now I just go out there and just perform the best way I can do it.
It's a great match. I know all the Jiu-Jitsu fans are super excited to watch it. You guys are both incredible competitors with a lot of accomplishments, so I definitely expect it to be an incredible match. And as part of the event, there's also going to be a medium heavy Grand Prix and a female GP. The medium heavy GP has Leandro Lowe, Andre Porfirio, Matias Luna, and Ronaldo Jr. Do you have any thoughts on the medium heavy GP and how that could potentially play out?
That's tough. Great competitors. Yeah, great competitors, but who I really want to win is Andre Porfirio. So they have like a friendship since the young age. So we know each other like since the young age. So I just really want him to win this. And he has the level, he has the experience, he has everything that it takes to win this Grand Prix. But yeah, he's the name that I really want to be watching, and I really want to win this tournament. But yeah, of course, like he's gonna have tough match. He's gonna have Ronaldo. He's gonna have Matias in front of him. He's gonna have Leandro Lowe. But yeah, he's the name that I really want to watch. Really want him to win. So we have been training together. We used to train together like when you were like 15, 16 years old. But yeah, we have a long journey. So he used to compete in the same tournaments. His dad is just he already helping me so much when we were back in Brazil. So he's the one.
What are your thoughts on the female GP? That's another very stacked group of competitors. You got Fionn Davis, Natalie Ribeiro, Anna Rodriguez, and Bianca Basilio.
That's also a really tough match, like for the girls. But I believe like Bia, she has like a higher level than the other girls. So if she performs the way how we're expecting her to perform, she has her ups and downs. So there are times she's performed really well, there are times she's not that well, but I believe she has a higher level than the other girls, and she has like the skills that he needs to have to win that division. But I think in my opinion, she's gonna be the one like winning that one.
We're so excited for the event and the fact that you're going to have the super fight with Levi. It's going to be amazing. Do you have any final thoughts you wanted to share before we wrapped it up?
No, I think that these are the thoughts I have. But yeah, I just expecting it to be a tough match. So it doesn't really matter how tough it is. I'm just going to play my game, and that's what I want. I want to go out there and just show my jiu-jitsu. So that should always be the goal. The goal shouldn't be like how you're winning or playing a different strategy, like depending on who you're facing. But the goal should always be go out there and just perform the best jiu-jitsu you can ever do. And yeah, that's my goal, like just to show my jiu-jitsu, show my potential, and then be able to perform the best I can. And yeah, of course, like I'm facing a tough opponent, but it doesn't really matter who is in front of me. So whatever happens, we know like the next day we just need to go back to work and improve even more. So I can have a dominant performance. The work should be the same. You cannot get comfortable just because you go out there and you can have great performance. So you cannot stop improving. It's more about the daily improvement than anything else. So perform well, not perform well, whatever happens, the next day we just go back to work, and then we know that there are goals to accomplish even further and bigger than it is.
Thank you so much for your time, Johnatha. I really appreciate it. Like I said, we can't wait for your super fight. For everyone listening, make sure you tune into the event, the IBJJF Flow Grappling Grand Prix. We got the medium heavy Grand Prix, we got the female Grand Prix, and we have 2 super fights, of which Johnatha is going to be in one of them. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you guys soon for another episode.
All right, thank you.